What is the topic? Yes. If I were to ask you for the basic, I don't know, mantra, the basic phrase that we use about the presence of the divine, you would say with me, God is all there is, right? Don't we say that 1,000 times a day around here? God is all there is. The idea that the divine presence is the essence of everything, the highest reality, the only reality that is true and so in our lives, is something that is ingrained in you if you come to this place. And then you have a thing called a problem. And all that goes flying out the window. It does. I know it does, because it does with me sometimes, you know, where suddenly this alluring thing captivates our attention. It is the problem. It is the condition or the person that is just annoying the dickens out of us, or that we're afraid of, or that we're concerned about, or whatever you want to couch it in. It's the fact that even though we live in this idea that the presence of the divine is everything, we still end up with a condition or a situation we don't want. How is that helpful? Well, the idea is that the presence of the divine it has to be something that we talk about to ingrain it into us. And still, we as the created beings of our life are going to create something contrary. But at least it looks contrary. Because in the highest reality, there are no problems. But that doesn't help a lot when this thing hurts, when this thing is confusing, when this thing doesn't seem to have an answer, it doesn't have a solution, it's not worked out. And so there's God is all there is, and the problem. You get the duality of that? That doesn't stop us, though. That doesn't hold us in a place where we can just all of a sudden make it disappear. That's what we'd like to do. We'd like for it to disappear, because that's what we want to do with all of our problems, is have them simply go away. I don't know anyone that ever went to a practitioner or a barber or me that didn't have that ulterior motive pretty well ingrained. So what do you want? I want a life without this problem. You know, and that's kind of where it stops. There's not much thought about what we do instead of the problem. It's just, I'll get back to my life if you would just get this problem to go away. Now, if you weren't connected to this community, there are secular opportunities to get rid of our problems. The four basic pillars of life are health, wealth, relationships, and self-expression. And there are experts out there that can help you with any of those if one of them contains a problem. If you have a health problem, God knows this town has enough health professionals. Big buildings full of them. And then the private practices and all the alternative stuff. That's all going on. You go to any of them. And you can pretty much know what's going to happen. If you go to an allopathic doctor, they're going to give you drugs. If you go to an alternative that uses acupuncture, they're going to put some needles in you. If you go to a chiropractor, they're going to put you down on a table and crunch your back. Or there are others that don't do that anymore, but you know, whatever they do. And on and on and on with the modalities. And that is, of course, the idea that whatever the problem is, if you're a carpenter, the solution is a hammer. You know, so that's how life works. That you've got an answer in there. Move on from health to wealth. If you've got financial issues, there are all kinds of people who would love to help you with your financial stuff. Coaches and advisors and investment people and people that will help you file bankruptcy and the full gamut of possibilities. All of those are available to help you with your problem. Relationships. You think there's people that want to help you with your relationship? They're called counselors and psychologists and relationship experts. They would love to help you with that because you've got this relationship problem. And then, of course, there's self-expression, and there's even experts on that you can go to if you want some job counseling or some employment or vocational development. There's just tons of people that would love to help you with that. There's all kinds of people that will help you with your problem. The problem with all of that is that every one of those people is dealing with it at the level of the problem, right? So, and what was it Einstein said? That we cannot resolve a problem with the consciousness that created the problem. So when we deal with things like that, we make it some, and I'm not discounting all of those people. They all have things to give, and they've all seen improvement in the people that they work with. Therefore, what they have is the right answer. They all see that. Now let's move away from those secular ideas into what we have here in our center and how we function as a community here. We have practitioners, and they are wonderful. And they have done deep work in consciousness to know what is true for you and for me and for this center. So they are incredibly helpful, and you can come to them and they will do treatment work with you, and you will see a shift in the condition in your life. However, this is important to know, that if your consciousness doesn't shift and you hold on to that consciousness that created the problem, a practitioner can create a change in the condition in your life, but ultimately you'll go back to the problem because that's what you have in consciousness. And I'm not saying that's bad. It's just, that's who we are. We're creative beings, and we put a whole lot more effort in knowing how our life is running than a practitioner or any of the professionals that we talked about before. So the practitioner does their good work, and still, over time, if you don't shift, you will get right back to a place that looks a lot like the other one. In the case of relationships, it may be a different person you're talking about, but it'll still be something that is unresolved in the long run. So what are you supposed to do? Well, you're supposed to have a shift. And the first thing I want to ask you to shift is this idea that you have a problem. But it hurts. But I don't like it. But I want it to go away. Well, that all may be so. But if you stay at that level of having a problem, you can't move to a place that doesn't have a problem. So what do we do? Well, the answer is in looking at that situation, that person, that circumstance, whatever it is, that feeling, whatever it is, and find God in it. Well, how do you do that? You look, and you look, and you look, and you sit with it, and you become more and more aware of what it is. And the more you become aware of it, the bigger chance is you're going to find something that you didn't know was there. Because the presence of the divine clearly implies that there's some value there. When we do treatment work and we begin the treatment, we begin with the recognition statement. And that's where the I know God is all there is often shows up, or something very much like it. And then we go off sometimes in treatment. And we recognize God. And we recognize God in all the lovely things of life. The trees, the flowers, the birds, the clouds. This is all God. Yeah. So is the thing you're calling the problem. But nobody ever says that in the treatment. You want to get this lovely, delightful, good feeling from knowing God. And that is the way it's designed to do it. But God is more than that. God is everything. That divine presence that dwells in and as us, that moves through us with every thought, with every action, that presence is absolute. And that's not what every spiritual path teaches you. For example, the young man that got himself into some trouble at school, and the teacher called in, happened to be a parochial school, called in the priest to deal with this child that kept getting in trouble, stealing, lying, all this stuff that he was into. And so the sister brought in little Frankie into the priest's office and said, "You've got to do something with this. This just isn't working." So the priest thought for a minute and said, we're going to work on this idea of God and how God is always watching this child. So he looked him straight in the eyes as he was sitting in his office and said, "Where is God? Frankie, where's God?" Frankie sat still. "Frankie, tell me, where is God?" Nothing. Third time, he could raise his voice. "Child, you need to tell me, where is God?" Frankie jumped up and ran out. He ran straight home and ran into a closet and slammed the door. And his mother heard that and came over to the door and knocked and said, "Who's in there?" "It's me, Mom." "What are you doing?" Oh, I got in trouble at school. What happened? Well, God's missing and they think I took him. That's not going to help you. Because that divine presence that we call God is everywhere always. We can't get away from it. We can't. It's impossible. And if it is in us, and it is in everything and everything we're a part of in our lives, and it's also in this thing that we declare as a problem, this thing we don't like. So the work that we need to do is to neutralize that idea that that is separate somehow from us. You know, the whole idea of identifying a problem, we give it names, we put it in boxes, we know everything there is to know about our problems. We know when it started, we know who to blame, it's seldom us. So we live in that place of trying to deny it and move it away from us and hold it out there, yet we're totally myopically focused on it in our lives, so it keeps getting bigger. And I believe the presence of the divine is absolutely in anything that we would call a problem. And that when we focus on it and see it, it shifts. It shifts into a place where we can have a different relationship with it. If God is in the midst of it, then it must have value. It must have value. I would bet most of us in our life, though, think that we've had a situation, a circumstance that we call the problem, where we didn't find God in it. And we've somehow managed, maybe with the help of a practitioner or other ways, to get it to kind of leave us alone, at least for a while. And we thought we did a good job. I want you to reconsider that this morning. I want you to consider that anything, a pain, a concern, a confusion, an upset, an uncertainty, that God is in the midst of it. And the more it bothers you, the more it's trying to tell you something. It's like God's trying to talk to you, and you're not willing to listen. That's because we are so friggin' hard-headed. But when we stop and just allow it to be, eventually, hopefully sooner than later, it will turn into something of value for us, and we will see it. I have a story that's going on in my life. You know, I'm on sabbatical. And yay, it's kind of working. And one of the things that I promised myself I would do when I got on sabbatical was go back and finish a book that I started writing years ago. And it's the working title of it is Stop Being Sorry. And I'm convinced that we have this incredible thing that we abuse in our lives. And I'm not really going to go into that whole idea right now, but I've got like 15 chapters that are all kind of in the works right now. And on Monday, 2 weeks ago, I started looking at this book again, and it was fun. I was getting in there and looking at the concepts I was developing and really having a good time with it. Barbara loves it when I write because I get really happy. So I'm working on this book, and then this past Monday was Columbus Day. And I'm sure many of you were at work, but an amazing number of people took the day off. So one of the things that I did on Monday afternoon, after I'd been writing in the morning, was go to Sam's Club. Anybody here have a membership to Sam's Club? Were you all in there that day? Because that place was so packed with people, it was crazy. And I kind of worked my way through the store. I needed all of 3 items, one for me, one for Barbara, and one for the center. So I got me a cart, and I went and I got my items as quickly as I could, and I came up to, if you know Sam's, if you don't, I'll tell you, they have one section at the far end of the run of cash registers that is self-serve. I have 3 items. I'm going through self-serve, and there's big signs there that say 10 items maximum, no more than 10 items at the self-serve. Every one of the self-service places had somebody who had a cart filled to overflowing with items. And I'm looking at this going, none of these people can count. Judgment, you can see where we're going. We're going down the hole here. So, off to the side from the run of cashiers, there's a place where they sell tobacco products. And anyone can get in line there. That's not, you don't have to be buying tobacco to be there. And I noticed there was one woman in a wheelchair cart that was in the middle of checking out. So I went over and got behind her. And she finished up and rolled away, and the cashier said, something to me, and I said, it's amazing how many people don't understand what 10 items means. Do you hear me over there? Smart Aleck. So she played completely into my upset and talked to me about how that goes on all the time, blah, 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 blah. So she checked me out with my items, and as I'm walking by the self-checkout area, there was nobody there. But I didn't want to talk or think about that. I wanted to get out of there. So I took about 3 more steps and the line stopped. And you got to know that there are like 20 registers in the front of Sam's, and 18 of them are still in front of me to pass to get out the door. Right? Great. So it creeped along, and we got up close to the customer service entrance, which is on the other side, not the counter, on the other side. And there's one customer there, and 3 attendants, 3 people working that counter to help people. So I call over, could one of you come and help with the checking out? 2 of them look at each other, there's a nod, person leaves, she goes and gets the marker and the little board to take your receipt and mark it to say that you have the right count. They don't let anybody out of there without counting their items. And immediately the line shifts, and it's now 2 lines, so it shortens. However, 2 people in front of me, there's a lady who has a cart who has gone over to chat with the other person working at the customer service. So the lines move ahead, and here we stand. And so I say to the guy in front of me, could you go around her, please? Yes, I'm being obnoxious now. So he and I go to the left, and we get in line with the woman that had come over to help out. And I'm quite happy. We've only got like a person or 2 in front, and they seem to very quickly. And pretty soon, the guy in front of me is done, and he steps forward. And I'm looking right at this woman that has come over to help. And I say, thank you, just as I hit the heel of the guy who's leaving in front of me. I hate that. I personally hate having that happen to me. So I'm writing a book about not being sorry. So I use what I have in the book. And the first thing is to acknowledge that you did something. So I back off and I go, I did that. And as he's turning around to look at me, he wasn't interested. He just wanted to rip me up one side, down the other. And he said, you need to friggin' stop being in such a hurry. And he didn't use the word friggin'. You're right, I did that. I absolutely did, tried to go into a space that we could talk. He didn't want to hear it. And so I turned back to the woman and I said, again, thank you for helping me. She signed me out with my 3 items and I was out. And he was still moving slowly because he wanted to do some more of that out in the lobby area at Sam's. Give it to me again. And I said, wow, I was just so into thanking that woman. And he just started at me again. And I said, fine. And we kind of parted ways, went to different places. And I'm all wound up because he had blasted me with some energy. Now, I could really want to blame him for that. But I hit his heel. And that's like this major thing you don't do. So I'm all caught up in this and all freaked out by this. And I'm not sure quite how to move forward with it. And I'm thinking, okay, where's God in this? And the first thing that was so clear to me is, slow down. Where are you in such a hurry to go? Why is this such a problem? Why are you in this state of doing? So I got real critical. After a while, I realized I was beating on myself, and this was not helping either. So I kind of went through the day, and it kept popping up, this experience. It wasn't pleasant. I didn't feel good. I didn't like what I had done, and I didn't like how I had been treated. And somewhere later in the day, out of nowhere, kind of looking at it and trying to, this thing of saying, where's God in the midst of this? Pow! And I immediately went back to the book. I went to the opening chapter and wrote these words. I will teach you a system that will help you learn from what you've done. It does not mean people will automatically forgive you. It's not about them, it's about you. God, that's good. That was worth hitting that guy's Achilles heel. And all his upset for me to get that. That it's not about receiving the apology. And most people think with the words, I'm sorry, that that's what they're going to get. They're going to get forgiven and everything's going to be bliss. Sometimes that happens, but sometimes not. And even away from sorry, even if you are paying attention to what you did and learning from it, there's absolutely no guarantee that people who have been upset with you will forgive you. But that's their business, not yours. Yours is to learn from your experience. And I did. And I did it by saying, God's got to be in here somewhere for me. And I found it. Now, this is just one little example. I want to suggest to you that in your life, in those moments where that problem looks so ominous and it feels so yucky and you don't know what to do, find God in it. Take the time to learn from what happened and not about being self-deprecating. Learn something that will enrich your life, that will help you in understanding who you are. Then you got somewhere. Now you've achieved something. And you're using the principles we teach here, that God is all there is. So when we have the problem is God calling us to wake up and see something. To wake up and know who we are. To wake up to the truth of our very lives. It is not the traditional classic concept of a problem that you ever want to assign to any condition in your life. You want to find God. And when you find God, it's revealed within you and as you. For you are the presence of the divine. You are the truth of all life. You are the beloved. And by knowing that and living in that, you grow stronger and clearer and more full with that essence of life. And that's what I want to know for you as much as I do for me. I love you very much. Thank you.